I don't want to go yet. Okay, I think we're going. Yeah. Well, welcome to my first video in a couple weeks. Welcome to Everything Wrestling. I'm joined by Hardcore Christopher, and we're fixing to head to church, but I figured this would be a good time to do a video. So, the news of the day is Paul White. Big Show. Giant. I know you don't think it's a big deal. Why don't you tell everyone why you don't think it's such a big deal?
I'll let you explain why you think it is a big deal, because I don't see how a 22-year-old veteran
he will be 30 years in this business.
30
in 25.
30
so he's close.
Whatever.
So I'm gonna say this.
29.
I mentioned this to you earlier. Do I see him wrestling weekly? Probably not. But his commentating is going to be good. And the reason I say it's going to be good, this is the guy that can imitate Hogan. He can imitate, well, just about anyone. He's good when it comes to comic relief. So, like I was telling you earlier, they could literally put him in as Brody Lee's replacement of the BTE, the Being the Elite series. And have him be the relief factor of that. The comic side of things.
The Dark Order's already funny without Brody.
Not so much without Brody. I mean, they're there, but they ain't like they used to be. But let's get off of the Dark Order, because that's just one possibility. But are you honestly telling me that you would not like to see him in a few matches? With some people he has never faced.
I'm not saying that.
We got new potential matches here.
However, I did like the way Paul was used up until a couple of years ago. I mean, I think
he hasn't really done much of anything in
the only reason why WWE was bringing him out to begin with was to get stars over.
Which is okay. But he said himself, he doesn't feel like he's at the end of his career just yet.
But he has admitted that it's winding down.
He did say it's winding down. But winding down and being completely over is... I mean, come on, the guy dedicated 22 years to WWE. The least they could have did is give him a proper send-off like they did with Taker. Or even Flair, who wasn't there for 22 years. They gave Flair the best send-offs anyone could ever ask for. This guy dedicated 22 years. More time than even Hogan.
Well, Taker outclasses them. Because he was there for 30 years.
I agree. But Hogan's debuted, I'm talking about when his rise to power.
Oh, wait a minute. Didn't Show beat Hogan in his very first WCW match to become...
He's a 2-time WCW World Champion. And probably 5 WWE Championships.
Don't forget the slew of tag team titles.
And he had an ECW Championship run. I about forgot about that.
Yeah.
And that's still classified as a World Championship.
When he was at his heaviest.
I would literally have to Google to find out exactly how many titles he's had. But I think it's 5, 6, 7, probably 8 with ECW.
Now, I do have a question for you. And I really thought you were going to answer it. But for those of you that don't know, I did a video on why the WCW title was allowed on WWF television.
Because back at, like I did answer this. Back in that time frame,
you paid for it, so it was yours.
And he won that title when it was still the NWA Championship. And the NWA made you put a $25,000 deposit. Think about it. If you could put $25,000 and WCW refused to pay it because they didn't pay the money, so to speak, they say, because it was then the NWA that paid it. So they felt that the NWA should give it to him. Eventually, Flair won, got the money that he was supposed to give, and then they quit making you put a deposit on the belt. So that's why Flair was able to use, even though WWE for a while blotted it out, was for the fact that Flair could take that belt anywhere he wanted to go.
When did Flair leave the NWA? Well, the NWA / WCW.
It was right before Luger won the world title against Ron Simmons inside the steel cage. So,
what year was that? Because I know Flair debuted for the WWF.
91, I want to say.
Okay, so Flair would debut in the Rumble at number
3.
3.
And I think that was Rumble.
That was.
It would have been 91.
That was the first
time anyone went that long.
That was the first time. Well, up until a couple of years ago, that was the first and only time that the WWF Championship was
defended. Well, no, that was the first time that the winner won the belt.
Yeah.
Then they did a title defense with Rick Roman. So it's completely two separate things. So, I know you ain't a big show guy right now. You don't think he's going to make much difference.
I've never been a really big show guy.
I'm not being a big, huge fan of him, but I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. I love his comic. I've always been a fan of his entertaining factor of the thing. So, I'm going to give you 5 potential opponents.
Okay.
You give me the results.
Okay.
And no bias from you.
Okay.
Be honest with your answers here. We're going to start with the AEW version of Jon Moxley. Not WWE now. He's faced him in WWE.
He faced him in WWE.
But now we got the hardcore style of Jon Moxley.
Depending on what kind of match.
Just a normal wrestling match.
If it's a normal wrestling match, I see Show. If it's a hardcore style, I see Moxley.
Yeah, I could see either one of them winning it, because even Show has done some hardcore stuff, and he's pretty good at it.
Yeah.
So it all depends on the storyline behind it, and who is on the rise to a push, and who's on the rise of ending the push. But even though he's no longer champion, he's still one of the main event players right now.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Kenny Omega.
Kenny Omega with the club or without?
Either. Because we met... Oh, wait. Okay. Wait for that. We're going to do this top 5 in a minute. You just hit on something here. What group was Big Show part of?
He wasn't in it for long, but he was a part of the NWO.
He was in it twice.
WWE version?
No. In WCW. He was in it twice. In 96, he joined up right after he lost the title to Hogan.
Okay.
In 96. Then at Sold Out,
so he
basically turned on the NWO shortly after. Well, the NWO turned on him. And then, because of Kevin Nash, they couldn't get along. And so
Big Show has actually been a member of
the NWO 3 different separate times. But then after Kevin formed his Wolfpack, then Giant rejoined Hogan and NWO. And that's where he stayed for the remaining... Let's see, he did that in March of that year. So from March to December, he was part of the NWO. Then the NWO did turn on him. Because it was basically like when the Wolfpack were forming, combining the groups, and they basically made him have a match against Kevin because they only wanted one big giant of the group. Okay. And that was his send-off from WCW. But you just hit on something. The club is basically the NWO of the 21st century. Could you potentially see him joining the club, especially with they keep saying that this is only the beginning.
I could see Show joining, then somewhere along the line take out Gallows and Anderson. Maybe Gallows and Anderson are found knocked out backstage, and then
That might be how we set up the match.
and then Show goes, I came here for 2 reasons. 1, Shaq. 2, that. I want that belt.
I see him getting a short run, just so he can have one final title run and be on a good terms instead of. I can't even remember when his last world title was. But so you got. I think Big Show takes Omega. Omega's not as good as he claims to
Even
be.
with Gallows and Anderson, I think if AEW, I think if Tony
Here's
Khan,
the thing. Show has friends too.
he has friends in high places.
And one of them is there with a baseball bat, who he teamed with for a while.
Okay, this is how I see it going. Show has Darby and Sting, because wherever Sting is,
His protege is there.
and Omega has Anderson and Gallows.
Anderson and Gallows don't stand a chance against Sting.
Well, I don't know. You were telling me he did get physical, and he did take a powerbomb from
And
Cage.
he is now fully cleared.
So I say that once Gallows and Anderson start to try to get involved,
They come out. They will attempt to finish on Sting, but Darby will interfere. And then Sting would drop him with his
here's an
finish.
idea. Maybe Darby even has the Surfer paint.
I wish it. I wonder if that's what they're headed with it, because you can tell that Sting kind of sees him when he looks at him. So we did Omega, we did Moxley.
Next.
One that has never faced Show ever. I don't think he faced Kenny Omega either, to be honest. But Lance Archer, another Bigfoot.
Oh,
I would like to see that.
that. I'm trying to think. I know Lance was under a WWE contract. He never faced.
They never
Show.
crossed paths.
They never crossed paths, and he was.
That's what I'm saying. This Big Show thing, which we got to figure out what his actual name's going to be.
Well, they're going by Paul White, which
For
is
now.
his real name.
But if he wrestles, they may actually give him a gimmick name. They can't use just the Giant, but maybe they can use I don't know. Would it be considered?
Well, who owns that? Who owns the Giant?
WCW owned it, so
WWE would own it unless the trademark
has expired. But I know they own the name Andre. But if they put Andre the Giant Jr., would that be considered allowed?
He was on when he debuted.
They actually went with the storyline. He was the son of Andre.
Yeah,
A lot of people still to this day thinks he is, but he's not.
I don't think that would work.
So what would be a name that would benefit him, though? The Big Show made sense because he was
He was over 7 foot tall,
and so what? The Giant made sense.
and the Giant made sense.
Does WWE still have the trademark of the Giant, or did they let it elapse like they did
Well,
a lot of?
Well, you know that if the trademark had already lapsed, Tony or Cody would.
They could pick it up at this point,
They could pick it
but
up.
they didn't have no reason to up till now.
Well,
Be interesting to see.
okay, so Archer versus Show White, whatever he's gonna go by. As good as Lance is,
I can see this being a match where Show tries to teach Lance a lesson, some teaching time.
I could see Because even though, I mean, Lance has a long way to go.
This is what I see happening. Big Show beats him in dominant fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Afterwards, he grabs the mic. He looks at Jake. He goes, he got potential, but he needs some extra help. This is what I propose. Instead of facing him all the time, we team.
That would give
Show a reason to be there on a semi-regular basis without being in.
And that would also give Lance a lot of tutelage.
It would give him more than just Jake the Snake, who can't really do much. I mean, he does a little, but he can't do a whole lot. I would like to see that as a tag team.
I like that. However, I see Lance. Maybe Jake is the one that's telling Lance to team with Show, and Lance wants no part of it. Maybe
Jake goes to Show and just tells him,
destroy him.
Destroy him if you must. Get him to realize he's not ready for the main event spot yet.
I see Lance versus Show. I'd give it to Show all day long.
I would too. Now, here's a match I really would be intrigued about. It would be Brian Cage versus Show. A match that
with
never...
Team Taz or without Team Taz?
Either way. But think about it. Show has always been able to count the odds. But I don't even know if he could handle that much.
I don't know. I mean, he did lose to the Shield a number of times.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not that good when it comes to odds. I say... I don't want to give Cage the win because I don't think he... If Team Taz gets involved, I see Cage. I see Cage losing.
Mm-hmm. So, Show has always been part of a group. So, he's not going to be in this alone. He's going to join someone.
Maybe he joins the Nightmare family.
But they seem to...
What?
But they seem to be recruiting all rookies who they think they can help follow along their career.
But you cannot...
Unless he joins the Nightmare as another trainer.
Because Show does have a lot more...
history that he got.
History than Cody.
Yeah, but Cody has the family history. Which
doesn't mean much.
It does when you're growing up in this business. So, just because we never got this match in WWE, which I always wanted when they broke up as a tag team, Chris Jericho, do they face off or do they reform? When Jericho gets kicked out of his group of Inner Circle and MJF takes over.
I mean, Sammy already quit, which...
I think that's a setup for when MJF takes complete over. I can see Sammy coming out, making it look like he's joining forces with Jericho, and BAM!
I could see Jericho bringing Show into the Inner Circle. And them doing their Jericho thing.
But the only way Big Show works as a tag team is if he's a legend and there's a rookie he tries to help. We really don't
Jericho's not in shape anymore.
That's my point. We don't need two guys that really can't go that much anymore. I mean, they can go, granted, but they don't have a whole lot left at this point.
Okay, well, maybe, here's an idea. Maybe Chris tells Maxwell that
I'm taming you. I'm stepping down and letting Show take my place.
Or maybe maybe MJF and Wardlow have a tag team match. And maybe, I don't know, maybe MJF takes the fall and Jericho just says, I don't like this. And since you took the fall, next week there is going to be a tag team match with Wardlow, but you're not going to be in it. I'm going to show you how it's done by bringing in this man, and then Show walks in, team with Wardlow.
Man, that would be a dominant tag team. If you
Because
think about
Wardlow is extremely green, and
Show could teach him.
yeah.
Well, with that being said, this has been Everything Wrestling, joined by Hardcore Crystal.
Yep.
Till we meet again.
Keep it hardcore, everyone.
Keep it 2021. That's just about, I always try to just say keep it 2020.